The first woman who was in charge of the mikveh was Barry Jacob, then Penina Popak, who took over. And for many, many years, she oversaw, made sure that, that we had enough towels, we had this, schedule. The people in this shul were only partly responsible for the mikveh. It was really a community effort from the surrounding towns. The name of the mikveh is the Essex County Ritual Area. And I was president for 28 years. People come and settle here. That's why we have Ken Yirbu, we have a big religious Jewish population. The mikveh was built in a roughly 1972 to 74. It took a couple of years till we completed it. In order for us to be able to actually utilize the facility, we needed the town approval. The neighbors, within whatever the 200 feet or whatever it is, were complaining to the town, didn't want to approve it, that it would be just a big commotion, which of course we all laughed at. But bottom line is that Bruce Schultz represented us before the town council to get a variance. It helped the community actually gel and back. People from all, Jews from all walks of life came behind us for this construction. So the mikveh became very popular, very well known, thanks to this. And Bruce, of course, did a wonderful job, got it through, and he became very famous all over, because I think starting that, anytime mikveh had a problem being built, they called on Bruce to help them out.
We became members of AA, J, and D when we moved into West Orange, which was, I believe, 1973. The only day school at the time was the Hebrew Youth Academy of Essex County, which, when they started in the school, was located in South Orange. And subsequently it moved to West Caldwell, and thereafter, years later, it moved to its current location in Livingston. You have to have certain institutions within a community to make the Orthodox community strong and viable. Obviously, you have to have a shul, and the shul existed. You should have a mikveh. You should have an eruv, and we'll talk about the eruv in a couple of minutes. And you've got to have an educational component. You've got to have a school. The mikveh and the eruv were missing. The mikveh organization moved its way to West Orange, and there were people like Eli Gold who were critically important in terms of building a mikveh and organizing an organization to support it. They had attempted in the early 70s to get an approval, but that attempt was not successful. In 1976, I believe, we applied for variances to the Board of Adjustment, the Zoning Board of West Orange. There was spirited opposition to our application. An article that appeared in the West Orange Chronicle with the headline, "Resident Would Banish Mikveh from Town," written by a resident who lived in the area, who was very much against the mikveh, not just in the location that we selected, but generally. The mikveh is a ritual bath regarded by a small fringe group of the Orthodox Jewish faith as important to their faith. What a small group of influence peddlers can do should be important to all West Orange residents. The tone of the opposition was very hostile to the Jewish community. The first hearing was held in the township hall, and it was standing room only. And the second hearing was held in the junior high school. We had over 300 people. To overwhelm the board with our testimony and to have a strong audience. One was a non-Jewish gentleman who lived next door to the mikveh in Highland Park. He didn't know that he was living next to a mikveh. He didn't know what a mikveh was, and it was never interfered with his life. a priest in the Episcopal Church who later became a bishop, who testified that as a matter of the community, the breadth of the community and the health of the community, all kinds of religious activities should be encouraged. Rabbi Marcus received an opinion letter from the Rabbinical Council of America, which relied on a psak by Rav Moshe Feinstein to the effect that it was perfectly legitimate to allow conservative Reform rabbis to use the mikveh. And that's been the policy to this date. My own feeling is that the mikveh had such publicity surrounding it that the approval had the effect of certainly making clear that the Orthodox community was here to stay and was an important component of our overall Metro West community. And that had the impact on the day schools, the funding of the day schools, and at a later date it had effect on another very important institution which we created in this community, which is the Eruv. I made contact with the then county executive, Peter Shapiro. This was, I believe, in 1983. Halachically, there's a requirement that there be a governmental approval to use the public streets. The county executive, Peter Shapiro, readily agreed and ultimately signed a proclamation which I think still hangs in AABJ&D. The establishment of the Eruv received a lot of publicity in the press. There was a major article in the Star Ledger, and I recall that the reporter who wrote the article, and she told me how happy she had been to tell her mother-in-law, who was a very well-known figure in the Jewish philanthropic community, that there's a string around West Orange. The Teaneck community had lost, in a very bitter fight, their application for a mikveh. I represented that mikveh in an application which was granted. And I think that they received what I'll call chizuk from the fact that we had gone back for a second shot and had been successful. I represented the synagogue A, B, J, and D when we sought approval for the enlargement of the synagogue, and then other synagogues in the community have also gotten approval. Everyone has been approved. Beth Israel, the Chabad, Or Torah. The mikveh application and the furor that surrounded it at that time and the ultimate approval of it was a major factor in terms of the perception of the Orthodox community here in West Orange. The lot on which the mikveh stands was purchased for $11,000. The mortgage that we got to help construct the mikveh, which was given by a client of mine, Ziggy Wilzig, who then was chairman of the Trust Company of New Jersey, was a survivor and a committed Jew. He gave us an $80,000 mortgage, and we were flying. Just think about it in terms of today's prices. But it also led to a greater involvement of people in our community, in the broader community. My good friend Murray Lawlicht, who served with great distinction as president of our federation, the first and perhaps still at this point the only Orthodox president of this federation. Many of our congregants now serve and have served on the federation board as well as on the boards of many of the constituent agencies of the federation. Sam Pepper was involved in the Jewish Community Housing Corporation. Others have been involved in the Daughters of Israel. We went through that struggle with the mikveh, and that the federation then stood up and recognized the struggle and financially supported us was a great step forward for the Orthodox community's participation in the broader community.